afternoon. Let me just grab something. All right. Now, take a look around the room, and I want you to tell me anything that you notice differently. Everyone? Exactly. Yes. So, what's going to be happening is, I just want to show you real quick. Just hung it up, but I can take it down. Not ripping anything. Alright, so this is the new person that will be hanging in this dimension until I really don't know. Now, this dimension person, Chuck, also known as Zach Callison, the actor who played him, and he was born under the sign that I didn't care for, really, but we spent an afternoon with him, and we rode the scooters around that little trail that runs by the swimming pool, and also, he is very excellent and skilled in roller skating, and so we had a picnic at the park, like a snack lunch type picnic, and we learned skating lessons, and we also scooted through the trailer, and then we had some games that he brought along with him as well, and he was the one who got all the scooters, and we played a lot of games such as cornhole, and then other things like that, of that matter, that I gave into a couple of them. And a couple of those things I was a little bit reluctant, but I gave in, and I thought that they were really fun to do. So, he will be staying on in this dimension until I really don't know, okay? Now, back in 2017, winter time, he arrived here, and we looked at some very significant words, such as maple and memoria. We're going to take a look at those words, and we're also going to really like this part of the invention is really critically analyzing a particular situation, and a particular guest, and a particular equation, occasion. So, did I say equation? So we're going to be analyzing the time that he spent with the girls. If you remember watching Just Add Magic, when he forgot everything and then they cooked the Trust Me tabbouleh salad, if you remember, and then they spent time together. That's the most important thing, spending time together, and that making a friend. What an excellent, amazing afternoon, and then all of a sudden that story is ending before it even begun. It's kind of sad and bittersweet, but also as an adult role model. So we're looking at that kind of friendship, not the forever friendship, but just for the afternoon. So going shopping, trying out new fashions, sitting in a park, having a picnic, which is what we did, fixing a bike, and also saving a child from an accident, and then going to that person's house to finish the afternoon. So I know it sounds like nothing, but we're going to really look at that particular episode. Because I find that a lot happened in the episode, Just Add Chuck. And I know you're probably thinking it does rhyme with something that we are not going to say here, and I am not going to tolerate it. Rhymes with the Queen Mother of all cuss words. And it also is a type of beef, and is a short for a place that is famous serving pizza and salad and cheese, that has child entertainment and a lot of games, which you all know is Chuck E. Cheese. But so anyway, I'm going to be hanging this picture up, better seen than heard, up in the BOA Custom, and we're going to be looking at all the little lines and all of the little occasions, okay, as we go along. So I'm going to be hanging this up certain places. I'm going to start with hanging it, I don't know, really, maybe right up here on the board. If only there was a wall like this, then I would stick it up there a bit. So this is gonna stay up here for now. You know, these pictures don't last forever. I have them up and then I take them down. You don't know how long. So it can last as long from just a day or two, or a whole year. But so anyway, today we're going to get into the book, the novel. I know that it's been a while, and we just got into chapter 1, which was barely anything. Remember where they had the car crash? And also, that was the prologue. And so we're going to get into the actual story. And we're going to be taking a look at that song that we looked at, In Perfect Harmony. In Perfect Harmony. With the story of it and then the lyrics. And I've read ahead, and I'm pretty far into it now, and it is definitely interesting. And I'm starting to feel a little bit of a Night at the Museum, Smithsonian vibes. A little bit. But so anyway, we're going to be starting out reading chapter 2, okay? What's going to be happening is I'm going to ask you to read a certain chapter by a certain date. I'll give you plenty of time for that. I'll maybe give you a day or two to read those chapters, because I don't want to rush you. I know. Also, in terms of face picture, we're also going to be looking at that. So, we're going to be taking a look at the Ides of May. You know, remember when Julius Caesar, where they were talking about the Ides of March, where Julia got assassinated? Well, that was March 15th. The Ides of May is May 15th. We're going to talk about the importance of that day with a resemblance to our mentioned guest, who was my special education teacher. one of my special education teachers. And we're going to be talking about the song. We're going to be looking at a song that I have composed called the Chuck Truck. And we're going to be taking a look at how on the very day that in Italy they had the Santubaldo Day with the chariots and Gubbio and everything, and they had festivals and dancing and food and all that kind of thing. May 15th, on that day, the trail was nowhere to be found. And throughout the whole month of September, well, most of it, like the end of summer, there was leaves all scattered around. It's random, but anyway, having the same looks and pushiness that my special education teacher had. Signs are exactly opposite. And the sign for our mentioned guest, also known as Zach Callison, is Scorpio. Scorpio, born on October 23rd. So it's a little bit of a cusp in there. But we're going to be taking a look at that. I'm not going to be really writing a whole lot down because I have this board all filled up with stuff. So I do not have the room for anything, okay? So let me begin here. So I need to get another bookmark so that I have one for reading on my own and then the other for this mention. And it's going to be getting into some very, very interesting characters. And I think I'm not going to spoil anything intentionally. But I think by chapter 7, you're going to start to see what I mean by feeling Night at the Museum vibes. So, let's see here. Now, here's the thing. After every chapter, there's going to be excerpts. There's going to be little portions about someone called Mary Hightower, who's just going to be mentioned at the beginning, but you'll find out what happens later on with this Mary Hightower. And you'll find out why her name is Hightower. And she's a little bit hard to imagine as well. So, this book is part of a series. It's called the Skyjacker Trilogy, which is like 3 books. Ever Lost, Ever Wild, and Ever Found. And I'm going to put these books in the same can as the Underland Chronicles. And you're going to find this to be very, very interesting. So, we're going to actually start at chapter 2 of part 1, Afterlife. So I've read ahead in this. So it's going to feel for me like I should go back and read that. So I'm at my own place of the book. So just to note, because that's what I do is I read ahead. So we will not be meeting like this every day. I will not be doing this every day. But we'll be doing it often enough. Okay? Now, we're going to start out with chapter 2. By the way, it's Super Nanny's birthday tomorrow. So, Arrival in Everlost is what chapter 2 is called. Okay? So I'm going to be starting out and I'm going to be reading it. And I want you to be following along, okay, and imagining the story with me. So, it says, the boy had not been up to the road since forever. What was the point? The cars just came and went, never stopping, never even slowing. He didn't care who passed by his forest on the way to the other places. They didn't care about him, so why should he? So now that song that I was talking to you about is going to apply. in perfect harmony. The story of that song was about a child who was living in a forest. With his families as the trees of the forest. So after this chapter is done, we're going to be taking a look at that. It's talking about this boy who is in a forest, and then there's that really, really big highway that runs and looks down upon and not really caring about the cars who pass. So when he heard the accident, he was playing a favorite game, leaping from branch to branch, tree to tree, as high from the ground as he could get. Now, what accident is he talking about? What accident? Yes. The one that happened in the last chapter, remember. And so we know the two main characters, which are Allie and also Nick in this book. So it says, so he was playing a game, jumping off the tree branches. Like, what better to do if you are in a forest? The sudden crunch of steel was so unexpected, it made him misjudge the next branch and lose his grip. When you hear something, it's physical as it is mental. So I think, hopefully you can imagine this. So in an instant he was falling. He bounced off one limb, then another, and then another, like a pinball hitting pegs. It didn't hurt, all the banging and crashing. In fact, he laughed, until he passed through all the branches, and all that remained was a long drop to the ground. So he was high up in the trees. So let's see here. I need another bookmark to be able to have two different things here. I think I know what I'm going to do. Okay, just a second. This will be what I'll use. Okay, so, let's see here. Now, alright, so, falling down off of the different, branches. Another. So, it didn't hurt when he was going through the branches. You would think, you kind of bump on the front or the back or whatever. So he hit the earth hard. It was a fall that would have certainly ended his life, had circumstances been different, but instead the fall was nothing more than a quicker way to reach the forest floor. So he was falling down to the very, very bottom. So he picked himself up and got his balance. Apparently like a fall would knock anyone out. Already hearing the echoes of commotion up the road. Cars were screeching to a halt and people were yelling. He hurried off in the direction of the sounds, climbing the steep granite slope that led up to the road. This wasn't the first accident on this treacherous strip of highway. There were many, a few every year, Long ago a car had even left the road, flown like a bird, and landed smack on the forest floor. Nobody came with it, though. Sure, there had been people in the car who had crashed when it had crashed, but they got where they were going even before the boy came to inspect the wreck. So it's talking about that. Like if we were thinking about a road that runs by a forest and kind of slopes down. So now he's going to find out what the accident was, find out what happened. So this new wreck was bad, very messy. Ambulances, fire trucks, tow trucks. It was dark by the time all the trucks were gone. Soon there was nothing but broken glass and bits of metal where the accident had been. He found the people who got where they were going. So you have to imagine that this sounds all very real world. This sounds like it's happening in the real living world. But you're going to find out further on. So, Rosine and a little bit mad, supposedly for knocking him off balance and causing him to fall, but he was laughing at it. So, the boy climbed back down to the forest. So it was like a really high and steep thing that he had to, from the bottom of the forest to have to climb up to get to the road. So who cared anyway? So what if no one else came? This was his place. He would go back to his games, and he'd play them tomorrow and the next day and the next, until the road was gone. Until there would be so many trees that would overgrow and block the road. So it was as he reached the bottom of the cliff that he saw them, two kids who had been thrown from the crashing cars over the edge of the cliff. Now they lay at the base of the cliff in the dirt of the forest. At first he thought the ambulances might not have known they were there, but no, ambulances always know these things, because they search around everywhere. As he got closer, he could see that neither their clothes nor their faces bore any sign of the accident. No whips, no scratches. This was a very good sign. The two seemed to be almost 14 years old, a few years older than he was, and they lay a few feet apart from one another, both curled up like babies. One was a girl with pretty blonde hair, the other was a boy with a kind of who kind of looked Chinese, except for his nose and a light reddish brown hair. Their chests rose and fell with a memory of breathing. The boy smiled as he watched them, and made his own chest rise and fall in the same way. As the wind passed through the trees of the forest, not rustling them in the least, he waited patiently for his playmates to awake. So you have to imagine this kid who was in the forest day by day, and that's basically his life, and now he finds two kids who were from the car crash with, like, they bore no sign of it. No whips, no scratches, no nothing. And I just hope that you think how interesting that is. But this is now talking about this. You're going to find out later. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I hope that you find that interesting. We're going to find out what happens, because you would think that it would be, that there would be like scratches or things along those lines. So, in the next subsection, in the next section of the chapter, next subsection of the park, because it's divided. Oh, here's another similarity to the Gregor the Overlander series with the Underland Chronicles, is that two kids end up suddenly in a whole new world, like a really really strange world with strange creatures, strange people. And this book is divided into several parts. So let's see here. So now it's going to get to the next part of it. Okay. So Allie knew she was not. So anyway, now we're going to talk about the next section of it. So it reads. Okay, this thing constantly gets loose. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm going to fix it. Okay, that should be good. Should be fine. Okay. Alright. So, it says, Ellie knew she was not in her bed even before she opened her eyes. So had she fallen onto the floor in the middle of the night again? She was such a thrasher when she slept. Half the time she woke up with the sheets tugged off the mattress and wrapped around her like a python. So she's laying on the floor and she's just trying to wake up. And she didn't feel that she was in her bed because she felt kind of like on the ground. So she doesn't have any realization of what's going on. And so one reason is that, and she's probably thinking this as well, that she just moves around. Like those people who snore loudly when they sleep. There's also people who sleepwalk. I don't know anyone who sleepwalks, but you might know someone. Anastasia does it. I don't do it. It's highly, what's the word? Unusual. So it's very, very uncommon. So her eyes opened to clear sunlight streaming through the trees, which was not unusual except for the fact that there was no window for the light to shine through. There was no bedroom either, only the trees. So she's just opening her eyes now, and then I'm just kind of like, it's like seeing that there's no window, that there's only trees, like in a forest. So she closed her eyes again and tried to reboot. Human brains, she knew, could be like computers, especially in the time that hung between sleep and wakefulness. Sometimes you said strange things, did even stranger things, and once in a while you couldn't figure out exactly how you got where you got. So it's a very, very good point that she made about us being, human brains being like computers, and it's like she was still dreaming, but she couldn't wake up from it. So she wasn't bothered by this, not yet. She simply concentrated, searching for memory for rational explanation. Had they gone camping? Like, had her family gone camping? Was that it? In a moment of memory of falling asleep beneath the stars with her family would come exploding into her mind. She was sure of it. So the So the kid that was in the car, the Asian looking person, his family, his mom and dad were not in the car, but Allie's father was in the car. That's what you need to remember. Again, it all comes back into, all goes back to that chapter number 1. So, it says, something about that word made her uneasy. She opened her eyes again, sitting up this time. There was no sleeping bags, no campsite, and Allie felt strange, like someone had filled her head with helium. So there was someone a few feet away, sleeping on the ground next to chest. A boy with a bit of an Asian look about him. He seemed both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time, as if they had once met but only in passing. Then an icy wave of memory flowed over her. And the memory was this: flying through a tunnel. He was there. He had bumped into her, that clumsy oaf. So now she's beginning to remember, reflecting back on the car crash when when the airbag came right up, and then she went through it and went through the tunnel and was going towards the light, bumped in, and then they spun out of control, and then look where they are now. So let's see. Let's see here. Now we're going to move on to the next paragraph. Hello, said a voice behind her, making her jump. She turned sharply and saw another, younger boy sitting cross-legged on the ground. Behind him was a granite cliff that extended high out of sight. The boy's hair was unkempt, and his clothes were weird, sort of too heavy, too tight, and buttoned way too high. He also had more freckles than she had ever seen on a human being. So I imagine him in wearing, and clothes is going to be really, really important. Wearing really, really tight, tan, short, like pants, like kind of, like, I don't know.